How are you all doing today? As you can see, today we are going to be looking at word stress in the Northern Paiute language. I feel like this is one of those subjects that isn't stressed enough when teaching a language. It's underlooked, but I think it is super important. And so that's why I decided to make a video on this particular topic. So word stress, that refers to one particular syllable in a word that is produced with more energy, or oftentimes it is louder or even longer. For example, how do you say this word? Obviously, it's an English word. How do you say it? Well, first, you can divide it into two syllables. The first syllable is ob, and the second syllable is ject. How do you pronounce this word? Well, there are two different ways. First, if you stress the first syllable, it's object. Object. That's a noun that refers to something. But if you stress the second syllable, it becomes object. To object is a verb that refers to an action, such as maybe you're objecting to what I'm saying right now. You disagree. That is object. So object versus object. Two different words whose meaning changes depending on where you place the stress, which syllable you stress, which syllable you emphasize. And that can happen in the Northern Paiute language as well. So in Northern Paiute, the default rule is for the second syllable of every word to be stressed. That's where that emphasis is heard, in the second syllable. And here's several examples. Nana means man. Nana. See, it's on that second syllable. We don't usually write those accents, but I'm just doing that for this video for educational purposes so you can actually visualize where is that stress. Nana. It's not nana, it's nana. Foot is kuku. Kuku. Hungry is tiayai. Tiayai. Mother is pia. Pia. The word for when is hanano. Hanano. The day before yesterday is iidzi. Iidzi. And finally, the word, actually, this isn't final. This is my second to last one. Haga. Haga means who. And the last example is naka ojik. Naka ojik. That means to believe. So you have to keep in mind, though, that when you have words that start having prefixes added to the front of it, there happens what is called a stress shift. So the stress syllable will shift. And so let me explain further by looking at examples. First is mogotni. Mogotni. That means woman, a singular woman. Mogotni. Notice the accent is over the go, the G-O, go, mogotni. But if I want to add the prefix mo in front of it, see, M-O was added. That pluralizes the word, so it becomes women. But now, where is the second syllable? The second syllable is now no longer the G-O. Instead, it's the second M-O. Mo. So that is where the shift or the stress is now placed. So the stress shifted from the ko to the mo. And now it becomes momokotni. Momokotni. You may have also noticed the G changed into a K. That's for a different subject or a different time. But the point is the stress shift. It's shifted. And now it is momokotni. It stays on the second syllable. Momokotni. Here's another example. In my dialect, the word for teach is tinidui. Tinidui. The accent is there on the second syllable. Ni. Tinidui. Tinidui. But what if we add this suffix, na, or the prefix, na? Well, that changes the word to become the learn. It means learn. But once again, Now there is a different second syllable. The second syllable is no longer ni. The second syllable is now the tu, t. So the correct way to pronounce it is natunidui, natunidui. Do you hear it? The accent or the stress, the emphasis is under the t, natunidui, natunidui. Now, what if I added a suffix way at the end of this word? D. That changes the word to learner or student. Has the second syllable changed now? No. The second syllable has stayed the same. And so the stress also stays in the same place. Natuniduida. But let's look at now another example where we're going to add more than one prefix to the start. Okay, here we have this kind of a compound phrasal verb. Bisha supida. In my dialect, it means it's a way of saying love. Like if I say ne bisha supida, means I love you. But bisha supida, those two together communicate the idea of love. Okay, so focus on the word supida. Again, the second syllable is the pe. Supida, supida, supida. But what if I add this prefix na? Well, the meaning now becomes to love self, like your self-love. But once again, the second syllable has changed. It is now su. And so that's where the stress shifts to nasupida, bijana supida. Love yourself, love self, nasupida. But we can add another na in front of it. That means to love one another, bijana nasupida. And if you heard what I just said, you know that, again, the stress shifts because it wants to stay on the second syllable, which is now that second na. So it is bishana na supida. Bishana na supida. So the stress always wants to stay on the second syllable, no matter how many prefixes you add to the original word. So we shifted from the P of the original word, supida, shifted it first to the su, it became nasupida, and now finally it changed to nanasupida. So it shifts when you add prefixes to it, again, because it wants to stay on the second syllable. Let's compare and contrast some words now, kind of like the English word object versus object. The meaning changes depending on where you put the words. And I shared this first example on my TikTok. Mu'a means tomorrow. Mu'a. But mu'a means maternal grandma. Mu'a. Mu'a is tomorrow. But mu'a is grandmother. Do you hear the difference? Mu'a, tomorrow. Mu'a, maternal grandmother. Another example, ba. Ba is water versus ba'a. Ba'a means to be high up, high. So first, ba, water, versus ba'a, high up. So be sure to remember those so that you're saying it correctly depending on which word you want to say. Finally, here are some brief exceptions because, again, not every word in the Northern Paiute language follows that general default pattern. Some words do place a stress on the front, but it's not a lot. Compared to the vast majority of words, there's relatively few. First is hude. Hude means river. It could also mean cradleboard. It's not hude over the du, the stress is over the hu. Hude. Another example similar is hupi, means stick. It's not hupi, it's hupi, hupi. Another word for father, na. It's not na'a, instead it's na. Another this long word is batusuba. Batusuba means star. It means star. I just recently heard one dialect from Stillwater, I think, where they actually did say batusuba, and I heard the lady say that a few times. So I guess that one maybe is somewhat dialectical, but I've heard many people from other dialects say batusuba, Patusuba. Another is duna. Duna means to serve yourself. And finally, yahutabino. Yahutabino. It's not yahutabino. Yahutabino. No, it's yahutabino. Yahutabino means today. Matnusapa. As always, if you really want to learn how to properly pronounce anything, the most important thing to do is to listen as much as you can to fluent speakers, to those who it's their first language, or people who know it very well. Listen as much as you can. That is when you're going to get the right flow and the proper intonation and stress on the words, on the sentence level, etc. Listen as much as you can. And as always, practice. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. And so until next time, have a good day and see you all later.